So before I start it, let me just tell you a quick story. As a counselor, I often have people come to my office that are struggling in their marriages. And I had this really cute older couple. He was like 86 and she's like 83. And they just were not getting along and they were really struggling. And so I decided, this is where we need some just education going on. And so I sat for a couple of sessions and I taught them the principles I'm about to teach you. And they went home together and they were just pondering. They didn't look like they were all buying in or anything. But the next week when they came back to see me, the husband looked at me and said, "Where have you been for the last 60 years? How come I haven't known this stuff for 60 years?" And I said, "Well, tell me what's happened." And then they glowingly started to talk about how all of a sudden things are different because they understand things differently. So this is one of those classes that it's really fun to teach and it's really fun to hear, but more than that, it can improve your relationships with the people around you in a very rapid amount of time if you will just listen to the principles. So I'm going to start off by saying there's a ton of information here. You can write as fast as you want, or you can just email me and I will send you everything I've got. There also is, this is actually based on a book. I was in the bookstore one day and I saw this and I said, I love that title. Men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti. And I thought, ooh, I have to read this. And it is a delightful book. So if you want even more, it's an audio book if you want, or there's actually a hard copy that you can read. So a lot of the stuff in here is from just exactly from that book, but a lot of it is from my personal experience working with men and women and helping them to have better relationships. Okay, so let's get going. Here we go. First of all, when I went to go look for a book as a counselor, one of the first books I found was Why Men Don't Listen and Why Women Can't Read Maps. And I thought, okay, that sounds all right. What about this one? Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And then this one that we're looking at, Men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti. It is not uncommon for us to feel like we really don't know how to communicate well. We don't know, and by the way, we do think very differently, and sometimes we value things a lot differently, and we communicate things in ways that we don't understand. It's like one of you is speaking Chinese and the other is speaking, Portuguese, and you have no idea how to communicate it. And so it has been across the dawn of time, a problem that helping men and women to be able to communicate well with one another. But when you communicate well, everything changes. So let's look at the differences. Men and women are different. One is not better and one is not worse. They're just different. So for instance, men, do you ever look at your buddy and say, I'm going to go to the restroom, and all the guys at the table get up and walk with you? No. A woman will stand up and everyone at the table will go with her. And then oftentimes we'll go into the bathroom like in a set of 3 and come out in a set of 5. Because we're talking in the bathroom. I said to my husband once, I said, do you guys actually talk like when you go into the temple and into the dressing room? Do y'all talk? He goes, no, we don't talk. I said, oh, do you ever talk in the bathroom? He said, no, that would be weird. And I went, okay. Now the women are laughing because we can't imagine not talking in the bathroom, right? Okay. You men will often flip channels. You're looking at different things all at the same time. And in stressful situations, this is in one of the books, it says you watch sports and invade other countries. Okay? So very differently, your stress management techniques are going to be very different than one another. My husband, when he's stressful, we go out and chop wood. I have never in my life had the impulse to go out and chop wood on purpose for any reason. So that's not me. But women, like I say, we go into groups of 3. We're okay with the commercials. And sometimes when we're stressful, we might eat chocolate or we're going to go shop. Okay? So just different, and it's not that one is worse or different or better or right or wrong. It's just different. So I wanted to start with this idea that men marvel at a way a woman can walk into a room full of people and instantly have a commentary on each person, but not notice the red flashing oil light on her dashboard. Yeah, my husband, he got into my car one day and he said, do you hear that rattle? I said, no. And he said, no, listen. And I leaned over and I reached the dial of the radio and I turned it up. I said, no, I never hear it. I figure it's not my job to hear it. It's his job to figure that out. Okay. Women marvel at how a man can consistently parallel park a car at night using a rearview mirror, but will still drive around for hours looking for a new route instead of asking for directions. different, right? I will pull over in a heartbeat and ask somebody for directions, but he never would, okay? His Rand McNally was his Holy Bible. He loved that thing. Now, when you think about it, from the dawn of time, we have been different, and our roles have been very different. I know that roles are kind of fluid at this point, but there inside of us instinctively is the feeling that of what you feel like your role is as a man or a woman, and what you feel like their role is, because we have a tendency to define each other by roles. So in the caveman times, the husband will consider him the lunch chaser. His biggest job was to provide something to eat and hunt, and he would go off for many days sometimes, kill woolly beasts and drag it back to the cave. Now the women are the nest defenders. Have always been the nurturers. We take the woolly beast and turn it into something delicious, hopefully, and our job has mostly primarily been centered around raising children and keeping that a safe place. So a very different look at that. Now I'm going to show you this in action for just a minute. Sorry. I'm going to ask you a question. Now, man, I just want to ask you, and you ladies, look at this. When you go into a restaurant, I want you to consider that the door is to this side, and you're going to go sit in a booth. Men, will you point which direction, which side of the booth, the door's over here, the exit door, which side of the booth do you feel most comfortable sitting in? Point which way, guys, just point and hold so the ladies know, this way or that way, okay? Which way? Now, a lot of you are pointing this way. Tell me why you're pointing this way. You can see the door. Why do you need to see the door? Why? Yeah. Which is? Okay. So, and we're not talking about like you're in downtown Watts in a restaurant. You're talking about sitting in Centerville, Utah, yet you still want to sit where you can see the door. And I had no idea this existed. I was out on a date with a gentleman after my husband passed, and he did not pull out my chair set, so I sat down in a booth, and I was facing the door, and he was facing a wall. And he sat there for about 15 minutes, and he was getting more and more like, and he said, I know this is silly, but would you mind just switching seats with me? And I said, why? And he said, because I can't see the door. And I went, why do you need to see the door? That in the family proclamation, it says this: provide, preside, protect are the things that the brethren are in charge of. And protecting means I need to know if somebody's coming through the door, and I want to be able to watch it and monitor that door. Now, ladies, do you care what seat you sit in generally? The only seat I care about is if it's a large group, I want to sit in the center so I can interact with everybody. That's the only one. And if you're not really interactive, you want to sit on the end. But we really don't care where we sit. Here's another one. Look at this one. Men predominantly use the left side of their brain. Women use both sides of the brain for processing. So the left side is the analytical side, and the right side is the creative problem-solving kind of the brain. Women, there is a thing right here in the middle. I don't have my pointer, but you see that little bridge that goes across? The bridge in a man's, it's called the corpus callosum. In a man's brain, the bridgeway between the two is like a country road. In a woman's brain, that thing is wide and very developed. It's like a superhighway. So we are processing back and forth like this all the time, where the men are on one side or the other. Okay? So while you're sitting there and you're having a conversation, you may be accessing, let's just do something like, for instance, you're going to take a trip. The men may be sitting over here on this side thinking to themselves, does the car need new tires? Can we afford it? How much time will I have to take off work? The analytical side. And they may cross over to, oh, that would be fun. But the women are over here going, well, so-and-so is like, having a really hard time right now, and I'm not certain that that'll be a good time for them to go because they're really tied into their friends, and that hasn't even occurred over here at all. So we process information in our brains very differently. Generally speaking, the men are on one side or the other while we're processing back and forth all at the same time. So that sometimes is frustrating in conversations because they're analytically over here and you're talking about it in an emotional side or in a relationship side, and it's kind of like you're clashing, because he's saying, but I don't know about this, and you're saying, but what about this? And it doesn't really computing very well. So it's very difficult sometimes to get the same message, even if you're having the same experience talking about a vacation. You may not process it well. This one, men, when you go to the mall, I'm just going to have you think about, I need to go get a new pair of dress pants, and I'm going to go to the mall. How are you going to do that? How do you do that?
First thing you do is you find out where they are, and you get straight there.
Uh-huh.
You get your pants. You don't even try them on. You just pick the size.
Uh-huh.
And you go to the shop, the exit, you pay for it, and you leave the store.
So it is a search and destroy mission. I am in, I know where it is, I'm in, I'm out. I may or may not try it on, because that's like one more step too many. This is how it looks. Men, you're the blue line. Ladies, this is yours. Yeah, I need a new pair of shoes. Well, I'm going to just walk up and down every single wing of that. And what I love about this is the men's time is 6 minutes, and it costs them $33. The women is 3 hours and 26 minutes. That costs you $876. Okay? Men go shopping to get what they need. Women go shopping sometimes just to see what they might need. Okay, we don't even have to have a reason to go. It's just, I'm gonna just go see what's going on right now. So we go to the mall, right? Very different. We are gathering information for future use, right? And by the way, when we go to the grocery store, if you have a grocery store you like shopping at, what is the worst thing they do to you? Move stuff, right? Oh, we hate that. Because now we got to go up and down, and we got to remap it in our minds. But when you go to the grocery store shopping, do you generally go up and down every single solitary aisle, or you have a pattern of how you do it, but you hit every single thing every time? And most men will go and just say, I just want to get what I need and get out. I will tell you that I never ever had my husband go to a grocery store to get a gallon of milk, because the milk was at the back. He would love to stop at 7-Eleven, where he could walk in, grab the milk, and be out in 3 minutes. Because he knows they sell milk at 7-Eleven, he'll just stop there. So very different, not one or wrong, just different. One of the things that's also different is how you look at life. Now, if you look at this, a woman can walk into a room and just see everything all at once. We're looking at every single thing in there. Hairstyles, shoes, at each other, whatever. Men generally are looking face to face this way. If you ask them, for instance, we had one of our children get lost at Lagoon one year, and it was really frightening for me. And I remember we were sitting and talking to the people, and they looked and they said, what was your child wearing? And my husband looked right at me, and we'd been with them almost all day, and looked at me and said, I don't know, were they in shorts? And I went, they're in a red shirt, and it's got a butterfly on the back, and I gave them a complete rundown of everything they were wearing. Now, it's not that one is right or wrong. It's just different that we're going to pull in a lot of details that they may not. One interesting thing that I discovered in doing this is that men really see primary colors. Mostly. They don't have as many of the little cones in your eyes as women do. That's why women will go, that is not pink, that is magenta. And they'll go, what's the difference between pink and magenta? And that's not because they are lazy. It's because they don't have the same cone structure in their eyes that we do. Yes?
They know what pattern is on the wallpaper up there.
The women do? Yeah. We know if there is wallpaper. Right? And that's more about that nesting that we do and that coordination. My husband, when he started teaching seminary, he was in all of his classes to get ready, and they sat him down one day just for a whole class on what to wear. And they kind of tried to explain fashion to them, and then they said, but if this is still really hard, what you should do is take your wife shopping, bring it home, and then have her tell you what goes with what. So we did that, and I would say this pants goes with these shirts that go with these shoes. He never varied because he knew kids were really critical, and he didn't want them to think he was really, really awful at this. So we would set it up every year, what goes with what, and then he'd just wear it exactly that way. One time he got a pair of ecru pants. Do you know what those are, ladies? Ecru? It's kind of a green, brown kind of looking color. He had no idea what to do with that one, but we conquered that. It was okay. Okay? Now, men have one X chromosome and women have two X chromosomes, and that looks like 7 million versus 14 million. Okay? So we do see colors differently. So If you're looking at somebody who's mismatched, it might be a widower that doesn't have a wife to say that, you shouldn't put that together anymore, okay? And by the way, men, if your wife is saying to you, or your girlfriend or whatever, is saying to you, that doesn't really go together, will you please trust her? Because she has twice as many of those things in her eyes that you do, okay? All right, now, here's a really interesting one. Our peripheral vision is even different. Men have a narrower, focused line of vision like this. Ladies, I want you to go like this. And tell me if you can see your fingers moving. Yeah, guys, you do that same thing. Can you see your fingers over there moving? Or do you have to move them into like this and a little bit closer into this way? We actually have and that's, from that hunting perspective, if I'm hunting, I need to keep it in the narrow scope. And so when men are watching the landscape or whatever, it's not uncommon for their head to follow like this. And that's not, and when you say your wife has eyes in the back of her head, it's because she literally can see anything coming long before you notice it's there. Okay, so we have a different peripheral vision. So these physical differences. If I look at this, all right, what do you see on the left, on this side? Is it backwards? Oh, what do you see on this side? No, not the woman, the other one. What do you see? Anybody see anything different? If you, at first, did you have to focus in and switch it? Okay, what about on the woman's side? What do you see over there? Okay, so you've seen it before though, right? Have you ever seen it? Because a lot of times we focus in on one or the other. Can you guys help the people who can't see it? On the woman's side, you see the woman, you can see an old woman that the big white part is her scarf, then the black is her bangs, and then you see her big nose and her sticking out chin. Got it? The young woman has her face turned away from you. The feather is like, at the front, it's like a feather on the top, and you see her ear and her jaw line going down, okay? So even when we look at the same thing, we may actually be seeing something totally different in our line of sight. We may notice things that the other one did not notice. Not that that's bad or good, it's just that you see different things as you kind of go along. Now, there's a big conversation going on whether men and women are different because of social conditioning, meaning when I had little boys, I gave them Tonka trucks and I gave my little girls dolls. Did I condition them to become a boy or a girl, or is it biological evidence, like hormones and brains wiring are largely responsible for our attitudes, our preferences, and our behaviors? And the answer is a little bit of both. Okay, so I have, they have this thing called emotional intelligence. And for most women have a great deal of emotional intelligence because we live in the world of emotions, and almost everything we have is we value it through a lens of emotion. Now that doesn't mean we're hysterical, it just means that we're evaluating emotions. It's part of that back and forth brain activity that's going on. Men don't usually evaluate things based on emotion as much as an analytical situation. So let me give you an example of that. If you have an experience that is extremely emotional, your brain is going to remember it. It's going to be easily accessible. It imprints on your brain, so it's very, very easy to recall. So for instance, how many of you remember where you were on 9/11? Everybody in here? Anybody not know where you were? I know exactly what happened for about 6 hours on 9/11 with complete recall. For the older generation, it might be where were you when Pearl Harbor hit? Okay, or it may be, I had this experience happen and you remember it with absolute clarity. Now, what that means is that women have access, because we run things through emotion, we remember everything. Everything. We remember everything because everything touches emotion for most women. Not all. I'm talking in broad strokes. Please don't be offended if that's not you. But generally speaking, we can remember the last time that you disappointed us, or the last time that we felt frustrated by that, or if there's emotion attaching to it, we remember it with absolute clarity. And it's not because we're holding a grudge, it's because our brain is wired to do that. And unless you, and by the way, if you have any men in here that were like had a state championship or they won a gold medal or something like that, that's absolute clarity for you, because those are big emotions. And you'll remember those events really well. But you may not remember, the time that, that you hurt your sister's feelings. You'll just think, oh, whatever, but she still remembers the time that you came in and told her that dress looked ugly on her. It's kind of hard. So just know that when women remember everything, it's not because we're trying to punish you or try to beat you up with it. It's just that that's how our brain processes that information. Okay? All right. Now, here we go. Here we go. Research shows that we are more products of our biology than victims of social stereotypes. We are different because our brains are wired differently. This causes us to perceive the world in different ways and have different values and different priorities, not better or worse, different. Okay? So when you're evaluating this, we have a tendency to think our way is the only way, that's the best way, but the truth is it's not better or worse, it's just different, and it's important to remember the differences. So here's one of the biggest differences in communication patterns. Men average about 7,000 words a day. Now, if you are a man that goes off to work and you come home at the end of the day and your wife says to you something like, how was your day? Most likely, if you've had a really busy day, what is the answer you're going to give most of the time? Fine. I have one word. I can squish out one more word to say fine. But I will tell you that your wife or your sweetheart averages 20,000 words a day. And if she's been locked in a house with 2-year-olds that have 3-word sentences, she is got about 17,000 words to go. So when you say fine, she just dies on the inside. Because she wants, tell me anything. Tell me what you had for lunch. Tell me about traffic on the way there. Tell me anything, because I'm so hungry for those 20,000 words to be used up. We often feel frustrated when we don't get to use our 20,000 words, okay? So what's interesting is that whenever you're communicating, if you as a man are communicating in very few words, she doesn't feel like you want to talk to her at all. So what I suggest to most of the men is that when you're going to come home, you know that she's been home all day long, maybe hasn't talked to anybody all day, maybe she's had 2 phone calls or she's whatever, especially if she's home alone by herself. Realize that when you come home, please save a few words for her. Think about what you could tell her about your day. Tell her anything. She doesn't care. You can tell her that you tripped on the sidewalk, but you didn't fall down, and she's happy to hear that. You could tell her that I was so excited because I saw a butterfly today, and for the first one ever, and then talk to her about that. She doesn't care what the words are. She just wants to hear the words. So your minimalistic responses are kind of she feels about that like you don't really want to talk to her and you want to cut her out. So please understand when you could say, I could say that in 4 words or less. It's like, name that tune. I can tell you how I'm feeling in 4 words or less. And she says, I don't want 4 words. I want 40,000 words. Give me every single detail. And I'll tell you how this looks in one of the ways it's most stark. If you ask a man for directions, generally it's going to be really quick. Go down the road about 2 miles on frontage road, turn left, and go another 1.5 miles through 2 lights, and it'll be on the left. You ask the woman the same directions. Well, let's see. You go down the street, and you're going to pass a Smith's, a car wash, and that's got one of those things going, and she's going to narrate the way for you, okay? And give you, go past the barking dog, and you're like, oh, land. Just even in directions, we have one of us is going to use many words and one of us is going to use a small amount of words. And so understanding that, what you want to do is you want to think about, how can I help her understand, brethren? It would be give her more words. Sisters, by the other side of that, though, you are drowning him in words. He needs less words, less. Condense, get it down, small enough. If he wants to know more, he'll ask. But you need to stop narrating all of life all the time if you really want to communicate about something, especially if it's a problem to be solved. So here's the pattern that I would suggest. Sisters, if you have something that you need to speak about, like I really need to talk about this, it's driving me crazy, or that I need some change here, you need to get it down to as concise a message as you possibly can. The other part about it is that you need to understand is that women process life out loud. So you may come in the door and she may start talking, and she'll start talking about, how was your day? Oh, it was a really hard day. And she'll go down the road, and you're just thinking to her, can you get to the point? But I'm going to say to you, if you want to know where she is, keep listening. She'll get there eventually. Okay? So, and if you want to, you might say something like, well, that sounds like that was really hard. Or, well, I don't know why you would do that. I would do this. If you start problem solving her, she gets real upset. So let me give you a hint to the men. Ask the question, is this something you want to just tell me about, or is this something you want my help with? If you're really confused, just ask. And I'll tell you probably 95% of the time, no, I just want to tell you about it. She just wants to blah, 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 use her 20,000 words. Okay? So, by the way, if she says, no, I just want to tell you about it, it's like, whew, I'm off the hook. I don't have to do that. But sisters, if you need help, you have got a great guy who's living on the problem side, on the analytical side of his brain, and he will give you stuff all day long. But sometimes when you do that without being asked, brethren, it kind of makes them really, really frustrated, okay? So, oh, by the way, I was going to tell you this. There's actually a chemical in women that they have more of than the men that makes them need to talk. It's not their fault. I'm just saying. It's not our fault. We do that, okay? I wanted to show you this. This is a fun, he's a guy who's a comedian. He talks about men's brains and women's brains. But as you look at this, he kind of goes through us a little bit about how we process stuff. And it's funny, but it's really cute. So I'm going to let you watch this for a minute. He works with congregations. He's a therapist also, but he does this in congregations. Yep. There we go. Yep. If you want to watch it, it's on YouTube.
Well, you fill in the blanks. Okay, so now,
Hold on.
we're going to start discussing men's brains, women's brains, and how they're very different from each other. Now, I want to start with men's brains. All right, now men's brains are very unique. Men's brains are made up of little boxes. And we have a box for everything. We've got a box for the car. We got a box for the money. We got a box for the job. We got a box for you. We got a box for the kids. We got a box for your mother somewhere in the basement. We got boxes everywhere. And the rule is the boxes don't touch. When a man discusses a particular subject, we go to that particular box, we pull that box out, we open the box, we discuss only what is in that box. All right? And then we close the box and put it away, being very, very careful not to touch any other boxes. Sorry, my Catholic upbringing got in there for a minute, but I'm not a Catholic, but I went to Catholic school when I was little. I had a nun who taught on hell like she was born and raised there. I mean, I'll never forget it, but it did me good, actually. It was a good thing. Now, women's brains are very, very different from men's brains. Women's brains are made up of a big ball of wire. And everything is connected to everything. The money's connected to the car's connected to your job, and your kids are connected to your mother, and everything's connected to everything. And it's like... It's like the internet superhighway, okay? And it's all driven by energy that we call emotion. It's one of the reasons why women tend to remember everything. Because if you take an event and you connect it to an emotion, it burns in your memory and you can remember it forever. The same thing happens for men. It just doesn't happen very often because, quite frankly, we don't care. Women tend to care about everything. And she just loves it. Okay? Now, men, we have a box in our brain that most women are not aware of. This particular box has nothing in it. It's true. It's true. In fact, we call it the nothing box. And of all the boxes a man has in his brain, the nothing box is our favorite box. If a man has a chance, he'll go to his nothing box every time. That's why a man can do something seemingly completely brain dead for hours on end. You know, like fishing. And we love it. That's why a guy can sit in front of a TV and go. It glows. Of course, this drives our wives nuts because they'll come up and say, "Stop it! You can't possibly be watching anything!" I'm not. Go away. Now, they've actually measured this. The University of Pennsylvania a couple of years ago did a study and discovered that men have the ability to think about absolutely nothing and still breathe. You know, they connected all the wires and stuff like that and watched the brain activity, then all of a sudden, I think he's dead. Huh? You know, women can't do it. They can't do it. Their minds never stop. And they don't understand the nothing box. And it drives them crazy. Because nothing drives a woman more crazy or makes her feel more irritated than to witness a man doing nothing.
They just described Waffles very well. The compartmental thinking of the men, and then the all thinking of the spaghetti of the women, okay? So here's where we need to have a little education. If you want to discuss something with a woman, you need to understand that she may tangentially just flip around and talk about 6 different things. So let's talk about the vacation again. You start talking about, let's go to Lake Powell. And she may say, let's go to Lake Powell, but I'm worried about the car because I'm not certain if the tires are going to be okay to go there. And then I don't know that we can take your mom because she doesn't really love water. And of course, we have little kids and they might get we need more sunscreen. And she'll kind of go bouncing around. And by the time she's done, she may have 10 boxes open. And you're over here going, I thought we were talking about going to Lake Powell. Why are we now talking about the car? And so when we want to communicate well, we need to understand how to communicate. So as she's doing all of that and going around in a circle, you might want to be taking mental notes. She's worried about the car. She's worried about her mom. She's worried about the sunscreen, too much sun at Lake Powell. And just kind of take these mental notes of, here's all the things that she's worried about, instead of being frustrated by, I can't talk about all of those at once. Okay? Now, ladies, if you're the one who's bringing up the conversation, then realize stick to one topic and then move on to the next one when that one's complete. Would be a lot easier. So first of all, maybe the conversation might be, I think it would be fun to go to Lake Powell this year. Let's have the conversation about whether or not you want to go to Lake Powell. And when that's done and you feel like you've decided to go or not go, then say, but I am worried about the car. So think of it as a train that you want to work down, talking about one topic at a time, okay? That will make it easier, because a lot of times when we open too many boxes, they want to just exit the conversation. And we're frustrated because something didn't get solved or we didn't get to talk about it completely. I'll give you another hint also, is that men like to process life in their heads. So they want to hear what you have to say, bring it in, think about it, and then be like the old big IBM computers. You put in a card and then 3 or 4 days, bing, out comes the solution. So women, the best thing you can do is say, here is my one thing I want to talk to you about. I have this one thing, and then say, will you go think about that? And then maybe we can talk about it tomorrow, giving him space to process this. Now, if he has a question, he'll come back and ask for more information. But when you give him 4 gigabytes of information, he will only probably remember the last thing that you gave him. And then you'll be frustrated, like you didn't even hear what I had to say about all this other stuff. It's because you went into information dump. Okay? And so men, if your women are information dumping on you, you can say, okay, let's just talk about this one first. And you try to pull her into the train experience, and you'll get a lot better. You're going to get a lot better solution if you guys do that, instead of just you do your thing and he does their thing. And he gets, by the way, a lot of times when men are frustrated by too many boxes open, they will just shut down and want to stop the conversation. If that's happening to you on a regular basis, it's because you're information dumping, and you need to stop doing that. Break it down into smaller bites so you can talk about it one at a time. Okay? And by the way, a lot of women, when you cut off the conversation and you walk away, they feel frustrated because they don't think you care about them anymore. Because they want to talk to you to work it out, and you are trying to, if you're problem solving, that feels like you're trying to pull them into a box and solve the one. They're frustrated by that too. So thinking about how you're processing it, and realize I need to either bring my information dump down to small, ladies, or I need to let her know I'm in this box right now and I'm happy to move into that box in a minute. Does that make sense as you guys are trying to work through things or have conversations, especially problem-solving situations, okay? All right. So men, we call what the guys do, they used to call it in the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, they called it men need cave time, meaning that they want to take their problem and they want to go think about it, not while you're talking to them. They want to be by themselves, and they want to go think about it on their own. I'm always amazed. We have a cabin up Farmington Canyon, and my sons regularly will go up to the cabin just when they've got something they want to think about, and they'll just sit up there. They'll drive up to the top and sit at the top of the mountains and just sit there and think, or they'll sit on the deck of the cabin. They'll just go up there, and then they'll come back with whatever they feel like needs to happen, or their thoughts about whatever the situation is. I don't believe I've ever had one of my daughters say to me, I need to go to the cabin and figure that out. Normally they call me and say, Mom, I want to talk to you about something. And then I just let them dump at me. And women will work themselves all the way down to the solution. Now, men, I'm going to give you a little clue. If you start to problem solve for them, and that's not what they're after, they're just wanting you as a sounding board most of the time, And if you start to problem solve them, they'll say, well, that's not what I'm talking about, and then they'll keep talking. You realize you haven't heard what she's really concerned about yet. Okay? If she's cutting you off and saying, that's not what I need, and let me just keep talking, she's trying to process it because we need to process it out loud. And I'm going to give you another really good clue, men. If your wife has, or your girlfriend, or whoever the women are in your life has another girlfriend, and you are feeling like she's got so much to say and I just don't think I have the energy to do it, look at her and say, how long's it been since you and Charlotte have been out to lunch? Because you know what? We can go to lunch for 3 hours. And talk. She talks, I talk, we talk. We try to go to a place where they're not going to kick us out because we've been there for 3 hours. Send her off with a girlfriend or redirect her to her mother or whatever and say, you know what, I think your mom would have some really great insight to this, and send her off to her mom. Because women have the ability to hang in there while she processes this for 3 hours. Your eyes will be rolling back in your head. You'll feel like, I just want to get out of here. I don't know what I need to do. But I'll just say, if that's happening to you, have you been out to lunch with Charlotte for a while? You should probably go. Or maybe you should, I bet your mom would have insight. So redirect them to other women if you are feeling like this is way bigger than I can stay in there with her for. But I will tell you that in good relationships, men, you learn to you learn to acquire the skill of listening without solving, unless asked. Okay, so that's one idea. But women most likely need to talk. By the way, I will give you something. If you can acquire the skill to listen and not tune out, and we know when you leave us, by the way, we absolutely know when you are not there anymore. But if you can develop that skill and you can become that person in her life, let me just tell you, she will adore you. Okay, but it takes a lot of skill to get there. A lot of older men get there eventually. Young men often have a real hard time with this. But if you can work on that as a skill, you will be her guy, and that will be amazing to her. So you know, okay? Here's a couple of talking and listening points that you might want to understand. Men usually take turns talking. If you see a group of men standing together, one man will talk, then another man will talk, then another man will talk. They do not interrupt each other. They find that rude and irritating, okay? Men, so they're in that compartmental, and that one guy's talking, and I'm in his box, and I'm not talking yet, okay? And it can be a sign of aggression when you interrupt. Now, ladies, do we interrupt when we're talking with our girlfriends? All the time. I'm surprised some of you aren't interrupting me right now, honestly. Okay, so when you are talking and he's trying to explain something to you and you're interrupting, it's aggression. You need to learn to wait while he processes his box, okay? And that's hard for us, to wait until he's through telling you everything he wants to tell you. But just like you want him to listen to you, he wants you to listen to him until he's through talking in his box, okay? So that's a really important thing. Women also talk just to create connection. Some men do, some men don't, but by and large, mostly they don't. They talk to relay information most of the time, okay? Women often interrupt each other all the time, and that's because we can have 6 open trains of thought going on all at the same time, and that's just because of how we're wired, okay? Sometimes women will use silence to punish you. I'm going to give you a hint, ladies. That doesn't punish him. He's excited when you stop talking sometimes, okay? More punishment would be to keep talking, but I won't talk about that one. But sometimes we get angry and we stop talking, and then, by the way, if she stopped talking, you know she's angry, right? Okay, I'm just saying. All right. Women often talk in indirect statements, where men often talk in direct statements. So here we go. I'm going to look at these for a minute, okay? Go and make me an omelet for breakfast. I wouldn't suggest you use that one, but if you did, it would be direct communication. People absolutely know what that means. Or, can you make me an omelet for breakfast? Will you? That's a direct statement. Would you make me an omelet for breakfast, please? Still, we know exactly what needs to happen. Look at the women's, though, deteriorating. And women, we do this really well, and really we shouldn't. Do you think we should have an omelet for breakfast? That doesn't say that. She's not saying, would you make me an omelet? She's just saying, just bringing up the topic of an omelet, okay? Or wouldn't it be great to have an omelet for breakfast? Or do you feel like an omelet for breakfast? Those are all, none of those are asking anybody for an omelet. But I'm going to tell you a real true story about indirect in my own life. I'm going to tell on myself. We went to the Dallas Temple, and I was feeling like I'd really like to stop for lunch on the way home. And we had a Mexican restaurant that we really liked down on Harry Hines, and I wanted to go there. And I said to my husband, it's been a long time since we have been over to that Mexican restaurant. Doesn't that sound really good? And he says, yeah. And we drove right by it. And I thought, well, maybe he didn't want Mexican, so we're driving down the road a little. I said, but you know, there's that Mexican that Chinese place over there in Euless, and they've got a really good buffet. I love their egg rolls. And he goes, yeah, me too. And he drives right by it. And then I'm closer to home. We're in Arlington, and there's a great fish place. And I say to him, honey, I think fish would be a really, really wonderful. I haven't had fish for a really long time. And he goes, yeah, me too. And I do love their captain's platter. I mean, he's kind of buying in. I'm thinking we're going to pull off. No, he drives all the way home. And I am so frustrated at this point. I'm so mad. It's like, how can he be so inconsiderate? I've told him clearly 3 times I want lunch. I go in the door and I slam the door and he goes, what happened? And I said, why in the world didn't you stop for lunch? He said, did you want to stop for lunch? And I said, I talked about Mexican and Chinese and fish. He goes, I just thought you were like, I thought it was weird you're being a food critic. I don't know why you were talking. Sisters, we are really terrible at indirect. If we want something, we need to learn to say it directly. Okay, I'm going to tell you the worst story, which was when I was our 25th wedding anniversary, and I said I really want to go out for our anniversary. Now that was good, right? I want to go out for our anniversary, and he said to me, "Okay," and I said, "Go ahead and surprise me." Now, what is the dialogue going on in my head? The dialogue in my head is, it's our 25th wedding anniversary. That's a really big deal. That's our silver anniversary. I hope we'll do something really romantic and really fun. And I'm thinking dinner and dancing and maybe like, a little steak and lobster action going on and thinking this is really great. And we get ready to go and I ask him, okay, so what should I wear tonight? And he said, whatever you want, it'll be just fine. I said, do you have something planned? He goes, oh, I have something planned. I do. I've got it all figured out. This is where I ended up. The Salt Palace at a monster truck rally where it was so loud I could not even talk to him. And I ate nachos for dinner, junky nachos. I was so mad. And I just was furious with him. And he said, well, if you had told me you wanted to go to dinner and dancing, we would have gone. I went, so I learned my lesson. That's when I finally learned my lesson, ladies, is I finally learned to directly communicate. Do not expect them to read between the lines. If you want something, be adult enough to say, I would really like this, or this is what I would like to have happen. If you don't do that and they miss it, it's not their fault. Brent, are you appreciative, men? You're welcome. It's not your fault. Okay? Now, if you live with somebody, ladies, the other thing is that we think, you've lived with me for 25 years. How can you not know what I'd like to do for my 25th wedding anniversary? But the answer is because I did not communicate it well enough. So think about if your message is not getting through, sisters, it might be because you are not communicating directly. And they deal really well with direct communication. Okay? And by the way, I think that you see this, the men directly communicate with you really well. They'll come in, they will say, I'm going to go play golf on Saturday. That was like a direct statement. I'm planning on playing golf on Saturday. They don't come in and say, what have you got going on Saturday? And is your life really busy on Saturday or whatever? And then they just kind of disappear to golfing. They come in and they say, I'm going to go golfing on Saturday with my friends. They directly communicate a lot. And brethren, we appreciate that, by the way. But sisters, we have to watch this indirect communication that we're doing. I've already talked about this one. Women work out life out loud, talking it through. Men work it out in their heads, okay? Have I got time for this? I don't. Go look up It's Not About the Nail. It is hilarious. It's about that indirect communication and how we don't do it very well, okay? Oops, wait a minute. Okay. Now, here are our biggest problems. Men, you don't listen long enough and you jump into problem solving quite often. And by the way, you're really good at it. And we do like you to problem solve with us sometimes, but mostly you just need to slow the roll of that. and here's that hint, is this something you want me to solve or just listen? If you're confused, if your wife is coming in and talking about how she feels so overwhelmed and how everything happens, what do you need to do? I'll tell you one story here. There was a time when I saved up to buy a really great bedspread for our bed. And it was so cute. It was floral and it was white. It was just lovely. And unbeknownst to me, during the day, something happened. My husband hit the door at the end of the day, and he said, "How was your day?" And I said, "Do you know what your son did today?" We already know it's bad, right? And he said, "What did he do?" And I said, "He found a Sharpie marker and he wrote all over the brand new bedspread. Not only that, he wrote on his sister and on the walls. And I was only going to the bathroom. I was in the bathroom 5 minutes and all this happened." And my husband started in immediately, "Well, how did he get a Sharpie marker? He's going to problem solve that." I said, "I don't know where he found it." He said, "We should throw those away." I said, "Already done." And then I go on to say, "And and it cost so much and I saved so long." And he said, "Well, you know what? It's going to, this can never happen again. This is just wrong." And he's going to problem solve it. I'm going to go in and I'm going to have a talking with him. I've already talked with him. He's already been grounded. We've already done that. I wanted him to get to the point of understanding I am really disappointed that I don't have this really great bedspread. But he would never let me get there because he was trying to problem solve all the way around. Finally, at the end, he caught on and he said, "I'm really sorry. Do you want me to kill him?" And I said, "I considered that, but I didn't do it. It's okay." And then he said, "We'll find money to replace that bedspread." And I said, "Okay." But I was trying to get him to help him to understand the emotion of what had happened to me while he was trying to problem solve it. So brethren, just cool your jets about that problem solving, okay? Women, one of the most complaints I hear from the women is women will not shut up. Ladies, you're drowning them. Stop it, okay? Stop it. And if you want their help, you say directly, "I'd like your help with this. I don't know what to do with it." And the men are just like, "I know how to do that. Okay, bring it on. I got it." Okay, because they're good at problem solving. In that analytical side of their brain, they're really good at it. Okay, so they're great doing that. So watch those two things. Men, they're task oriented with bullet points and their left brain processing. Ladies, condense the words if you want their help. Okay, women are emotionally based and it's easier to express their emotions. Guys, if you're listening to a woman going on and on and on, stop listening for the details and the analytical side and start watching for the emotions. So if you hear her going on and on, you can take a stab at it. Let me say something like, "That sounds like that was really hard." Yes, and she goes, blah, 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 blah. She's not through with her emotions. She's got more to go. And you just listen and you can try, if you get it right, she'll go, "Yes, that was really hard and I just don't know what to do with it." And you can then look and say, "Do you want some suggestions?" "No, I just need to figure it out." Like, okay, and leave it alone. If she wants you, she'll ask you to, but you can take a stab, and if you don't get it right, it's okay. But she's probably talking from a place of emotion. And you could try to see if you could figure that out, okay? Don't problem solve unless she asks. Men, if she wants details, it helps her to feel connected with you. So when you're telling her something, give her details. It doesn't matter what it is. We just want the words from you, okay? Women, don't drown him in communication. Think about talking in bullet points. It'll help. And give him time to take the new information into his box and then work it out. If you need something from him, "This is what I need for these reasons. Can you go think about it and come back and we'll talk about maybe tomorrow or the next day?" Okay? Give him space to go into his cave and consider how that works, okay? One thing that I always have to do in these classes is talk about cell phones. I will tell you that there are 3 ways that we communicate. The most powerful one is body language. And if you don't know anything about what signals you might be sending, there are a billion little videos that you can go watch on body language and what it means. But you are sending a signal every time you're sitting by somebody, how you are sitting, where you're are positioned, your body, all of those things. That's the most powerful one. That's about 60% of communication is nonverbal. Number 2, the next most effective way to speak is through actually talking, which we get inflections and voices. I can't tell you the numbers of times that I have had to untangle an argument in my office because somebody texted something and they typed it in capital letters, or they didn't put a period, or they put a period meaning I'm not talking about it. People can misinterpret a text 1,000 ways because there's no inflection. Because Really is different than really, and you can't get that through text. And that inflection of your voice is about 30%. The last 10% of communication is just the words. So when you send a text, the best you can do is send an emoji that kind of sort of try to explain it. But I will tell you, texting is for things like, can you stop for a gallon of milk? It is not for, I am so mad at you today, I'm just spitting. And you're going to do all this on text. If you have something to discuss, please make certain it is face to face all the time. I will also say that I think that we have almost gone numb to the cell phone's existence in our world. And I know you've had this experience because I have many times. You'll be talking to someone and all of a sudden their phone goes off. And they reach in their pocket and they pull it out and they pull it up and they're like this. And you're still talking to them and they're doing this. And maybe they're, and they're talking. And they're gone. You absolutely know they're not gone. So here's what I would suggest. If you are with somebody, your phone stays in your pocket. Okay? If you're sitting at a table, at a dance, for instance, and you're not dancing, you're not on your phone. Because what that means is I've checked out. I am not interested in talking to you. So that cell phone, I will say to you, better still leave it home. If you can't, then make certain it's on silent or do not answer it when you're talking to somebody else. And if you have to, if it's somebody like I've got kids at home and I need to pick this up, say I'm really sorry, my kids are at home alone, I need to take this, then walk out and come back. But cell phones are absolutely killing communication. We don't know how to talk to each other anymore because of it. So I'm going to suggest that you really look at how you're using it, and especially when you are with somebody that you want to be with, okay? So not that one, okay? This is a thing that my kids do. They call it phone stacking. They go out, and anybody who's got a phone puts it in the middle of the table, and if that phone rings and they answer it, they have to pay for dinner. So, and they like, no, this is my date night tonight, but if you answer your phone, you're paying for it. It's coming out of your budget, okay? Alrighty, so I would suggest even such a thing as I'm having a gathering at my house and I have a phone basket and I say to everybody, as you come in, can you just leave your phone here, turn it off and leave it here? By the way, some people will have a panic attack about that. But getting the cell phone out of the realm of communication is really important right now. And some of you that need to really look at that. Some disconnect to reconnect, that's what we're talking about. Disconnecting for that phone opens more opportunity for you to connect with the people around you. So figure out, I'm going to give you one little hint. Where is it at? Wait a minute. If you need help, like I don't know, I have lost the art of communication or talking to someone on a date. They have these wonderful things called table topics. Anybody ever seen these? They're wonderful. I'm just going to pull them out. And if you don't need to take the card with you, or you could, if you're going out, and just pull one and it says, what would you have for your last meal? And then you have a conversation about it. If you have another, here's another one. Have you ever purchased something you saw on the internet? And what was it? Okay? These are just topic cards to get people talking. If you're really struggling, like I go out on a date and I don't know any way to talk to anybody, or I'm with a family and I just don't know this person, I don't know what to talk about, go preloaded with some ideas. Or even just say, hey, I thought it would be fun to just do some of these cards, and then put them in the table and then you just draw them and talk back and forth. There are things out there to help you if you need help learning how to, if you're disconnected and don't know how to connect, conversation with something as easy as that can help. Okay? I just want to end with this one last thought. Communication in a relationship is like oxygen to life. Without it, it dies. So I hope you've learned one or two things. I hope that you will try to incorporate them. By the way, this is not just about people that we're dating. They're also about our sons and our daughters, about our mothers and our fathers, about our sisters and our brothers, and people in the ward. Every one of you are communicating every day, or thinking you are and maybe not, with everybody around you. So if there is something that you've learned today, will you take it in, give it a shot, and see if it can help you get closer? Because if we do that, we're going to have more connected, happy lives. Elder Ballard said this, men and women have different gifts, different strengths, different points of view, and inclinations. That is one of the fundamental reasons why we need each other. Go forth and communicate. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Are we doing lunch now? Is that next? Can I get somebody to come up and give a closing prayer and also bless the food? Anybody want to volunteer? Or you can just stand where you are. You just stand right there if you got a loud voice. Thanks.
We're grateful for all those that have put their minds together to bring wonderful keynote speakers and to learn in these classes. We're always grateful for the food that she prepared for us. Please bless those meals. We ask you to please watch over us as we get ready to travel home. That will be so safe and Jesus' name.
Amen. And I'll just remind you, after lunch, they're going to want some help taking down the tables. If you guys would make certain you do that when you're all done. Thanks. Oh, email. I'm sorry. Email VanDFam, V-A-N-D as in dog, F as in Frank, A as in Apple, M as in Mary, @gmail.com. VanDFam @gmail. Okay? He's fun. He's really good. He does. Uh-huh.
He used to do a Sunday sermons.
Uh-huh.
I found him.
I just found him by accident. Oh yeah, he's fun. Yeah. So good. Yeah. Well, it's there, but I didn't have time to show it. But go watch it. Have you seen it? Yeah.
Have you ever seen one man act comedian play Defending the Caveman?
No, but it sounds fabulous.
You need to look it up.
One
Because
man acts defending the caveman.
One man act playing Defending the Caveman.
Okay, I'll go look.
It starts out in caveman. Caveman is a hunter. He is focused. He's got his arrows and his spears and everything. He's hunting. And he's out there hunting. He's so focused. He's out there hunting. Okay, then it changes chapter. Wife stops all the kids. She's talking a lot, making lots of ways to keep all the kids safe. And she's having to hurt all the kids. She's having to take care of her. And she's on so many different things. All these things that were all the kids wandering off here. And then there's a wolf coming down to get all these things. Now it jumps to modern day. It has the man sitting in his chair after work, reading his newspaper. And all of a sudden, it's fly. Then all of a sudden you realize it's not a fly. It's his wife talking to him. So turn around and stop me out of the room. Oh, good.
He's back in his box.
Yeah, but it goes into a whole lot.
Oh, I will
Look it
watch
up on the
I
internet
will.
and look it up.
I love it.
I saw the first one was the first one I saw was Patrick Stewart at University.
Oh, really? Okay.
30 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They were so cool.
Yeah.
You know, he's a great actor.
Well, thank you.
Okay? Defending the
I'll look
Caveman.
it up. I'm defending the caveman. I will go look it up today.